People, welcome to the Secret Library. Here we will be diving deep into podcasts, books, and movies, and we will be taking our experiences with them and what we think with them, and we will be bringing it to you, where we will share our perspectives as book lovers, as book snobs, as my friend would say, or from my perspective as just someone who loves plot and character development and writing stories. Anything you'd like to add, Gigi?
No, I think that sounds good, Kat.
Okay, great. Today we will be talking about Wolf 359. We will be going over the first episode, giving us light synopsis without too many spoilers, and we will be going over the things that really brought to our eye what we were thinking about whenever we listened to it. You can find it on different podcast sites and on YouTube. I highly recommend listening to it. It's amazing.
I'm super excited for this one. Wolf 359 is probably one of my favorite podcasts, and I would even go as far to say that it's probably one of the best ones ever right now. A lot of the podcasts I've listened to have either had kind of gross or inappropriate stories or have been not really cohesive. Wolf 359 has really been a gem of itself.
Yeah, I totally agree. And so you were the one that turned me on to this podcast, and we will be going over so many different stories from this podcast. How it's going to be working is we will dare each other to look into these stories and learn about these stories that each other have just loved or found very interesting. But also with that, we will be looking at new stories that neither of us have experienced before, and we'll be getting to experience them together and share our insight into this new tale.
Yeah, that's going to be really fun. I think it's going to be interesting, though, when we end up both reading something we haven't read before, because at that point, we don't know if it's going to be good or not. So if it ends up being bad, it's going to be like, oh, well, this got bad, guys.
Well,
sorry.
I don't want to talk about that.
I don't want to talk about this one weird scene.
Right? Let's just skip that. But no, yeah, that's why I think it's so great, especially to have a buddy that also really loves books, because you can vet stories.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Hey, this isn't good. No, do not read it. Don't do it.
Don't read The Immortal Instrument.
Let's see, which one would I recommend not to read? There are so many. Don't watch the Percy Jackson movie. Don't do it.
No.
Really, don't do it.
No, don't do it. Just bad idea. Anyway, Wolf 359.
Wolf 359, right, okay. Well, starting off, something I would love to mention about this podcast, which I personally have only listened to the first episode because I'm going through this episode by episode. So while Gigi has already experienced all of the episodes, I'm hearing it for the first time, and so I get to be more of the ranty, and he's just listening to my rants. But something I would love to mention is just how immersive it is immediately. You don't even get a second to collect yourself, and already it's like you're in the world.
Yeah, it is really cool when that happens. One moment, you're just sitting on the couch, you're having a boring day. The next moment, Eiffel's talking to you about how awful his day's been. He's on this space station next to a red dwarf star. It's a miracle that they're there, but yet he's upset that he can't smoke a cigarette.
It's really great. And while we're talking about Wolf 359, it is a sci-fi themed story. It's kind of like Star Trek. It's about this group of people that are on this space station, and they're orbiting a red star. And it's from the perspectives of the people on the ship. And I can't tell you much more than that, so I'll let Gigi take over the synopsis.
So on this space station, Eiffel has to figure out these new and creative ways to entertain himself, to avoid mind-numbing tasks, and while he's doing that, him and the crew find weird mysteries and maybe what not else in the series. Who knows? Maybe it's just a weird audio recording at this point. Or maybe it's something else.
Yeah, because that's that's Iffel's job, is he like listens to the transmissions that come in to like find life or find transmissions from people that they didn't already know about. And I find that very interesting because of the way they use it. It doesn't immediately drop you into this high action plot, even though it does drop you into like a very immersive world. It doesn't drop you into the world's gonna explode. It drops you into this like, it's mysterious, but it isn't dangerous.
Can I just for one moment talk about the fact that the music for Wolf 359 is amazing when you're listening to this, especially when Doug Eiffel is talking about, you know, having to do all of these things and whatnot. They're in the middle of space. It just adds to that kind of eerie, kind of like almost floatiness
It really does.
to the atmosphere, this zero gravity mystery.
It really is great. And then as the first episode goes on, he's talking about what his life is like on the space station and mostly complaining. It's quite fun to listen to. But this is just something that stood out to me as a hardcore sci-fi lover. There's AI on the ship.
Yeah.
And just because, 2001, is the AI evil was just the first thing I thought of because it's AI.
You think here is evil?
It gives me the vibes of, I don't think you can trust AI in a sci-fi movie unless it has Will Smith in it. You cannot trust AI unless Will Smith is in the movie. That's just...
I mean, that's a good point.
Exactly. I know it's a good point. That's why I brought it up.
I will say, though, even though Hira might potentially be evil, it is hilarious how sarcastic she is.
It really is. I loved they were going over the rules, and I just loved how cheery she was, even though she was talking about them like getting sucked into the vacuum of space.
Yeah, it was really good.
You mentioned the music, and it does play so much through the entire episode. Because, like, for example, the music, whenever they were talking about the rules, was like so cheery and lighthearted, and it added that sarcastic, like, hysterical tone to it. It was great.
Yeah, that really was good. And especially as we are put in this world that, as again, it's sci-fi. It is a sci-fi world, and sci-fi worlds usually bring this existential crisis feeling to you. This, you are little and you're in a big world full of gods kind of feeling.
It really does.
But this really does make you feel more in the moment here. Just hearing Hira like sarcastically ask, "Would you like me to broadcast this across the Hephaestus?" And I was like, "No. Let's just keep this you between me kind of thing. Never tell Commander Minkowski deal."
Yeah, exactly. I love the sarcasm they use because they lighten a genre that can be so serious, because for sci-fi is so often mixed with dystopian. And
especially when you have Eiffel narrating these different rules and codes, he kind of gives a little bit of a, oh, okay, please, whatever. Like, he doesn't, as you said, he doesn't give a crap whatsoever about any of this. He's just like, okay, whatever, please.
But that honestly...
Yeah, and they don't like it. That's the great part about it.
Why does he love it? Because, like, I understand his job stories, but what got him saddled with the main character's job? Was it very serious? Was he forced? But also, they look out at their task, and it brings me back to the dystopia. It just feels like it's so interesting to see the main character. It's just really how they doesn't give a crap about being serious sci-fi, but also some sort of dystopian. He's in a spaceship next to the red alien planet is dystopian. And he's tired of it. Something isn't quite right somewhere.
It does make you wonder, like, what kind of entertainment do they have on there? What's going on? He might have been forced onto the space station by somebody.
He's not there, but it's so rich. Or at least not fully. We only have maybe he joins this, but like we have government or join this organization. We have do something funny, slightly ominous one thrown up the captain. she's
because
very serious.
of like
She's
a hierarchy
one,
and
she's
power
a follower.
I'm not sure,
But she still has this.
but it just feels
hint
like
he does not want
sarcasm
sarcasm,
and
that is made
vagueness.
evidently clear. So,
And then of course,
why would
Definitely.
they be my personal
somebody
favorite who does not
the
want to be
doctor.
there?
The way that we enter into the doctor coming
That
in
is true.
that's something I thought about
Absolutely
when I
hilarious.
first
The
listened to
way
it.
they introduce Dr.
You know.
Hilbert is amazing.
Yeah, no
because
kidding.
It's just it interrupts a scene that could have started to become very serious. Is the thing, because like the rules were getting very dark, and they interrupted this sense of something's not quite right with boom explosion doctor.
And Eiffel just going, "We're blowing up now? Is there something in the manual about this?"
It was amazing, and I loved how the doctor was just like, "What? No, it's not explosion.
And see, once again, that brings us
something less
Something
destructive.
lot more dust, a lot more docile.
Less
Blow
destructive.
dryer, perhaps.
It's amazing. I love
actors
I love
and
how they
I feel like they're
did that.
people,
But that
you've
brings me
just
back to the
stepped
whole
into their lives.
Sci-fi goes with dystopia.
That is so
and
true.
so I find it so interesting. At least from my way of seeing it, because I've
It's
always
just
the entire time I was listening. Could they have used Dr. Hilbert's "there's something in the back" explosion of this entire story to
they're trying
kind of hold back this, pay attention to how really the world is run. For example, one of the rules was basically telling Eiffel that sadness is a violation.
For example,
of the rulebook. How many people would
because
they
you
have
can't
that
be
sad on the space station, or you could like just get
why put
into
somebody
space.
who doesn't want the job
And
could
so I feel
very
like
easily
there are
sabotage the work
definite
because he
pieces
doesn't
that
care.
definitely feel like government dystopia.
Why would they put him up there?
But they do a very good job of making you not really think about it.
Yeah, that is a good
whenever
question.
You're thinking about,
Like,
oh,
if I were
that's silly
directing this whole thing with this
oh my
Hephaestus
goodness,
space
there's
station,
an
the last
explosion
person I
that
think I'd
came
put
from
on
over.
is Eiffel, especially
Just
when
because,
you
you
have
know,
Eiffel
he
narrating
doesn't
these
care too
different
much.
rules and codes. He kind
Then,
of gives a little bit of
I
a,
guess it could
okay,
be he
please,
doesn't care
whatever.
anymore. Yeah.
Like, he doesn't, as you said, he doesn't give a crap whatsoever about any of this. He's just like, okay, whatever, please.
But that honestly, that makes me wonder, why is he
I don't
there?
think he doesn't necessarily
Like, I understand
care.
his job.
I think,
But what
he
got him
doesn't like his
saddled with
position.
this
I think he
job?
loves
Was
his
it
work
work? Because when he gives the
forced to do it?
transmission, he's very interested in it.
Like,
See, I don't. It brings me
But
back to the dystopia.
I
It
think
just
he would want
feels
to do
like
that
any other place.
because sci-fi
ever.
dystopia would
Any
go
place
there.
other
It's just
than
really
that.
how they
It's-
work.
We very rarely have a
Definitely.
sci-fi that isn't some sort of dystopian
Once
somewhere.
again,
Either
why not put
the
him
alien planet is dystopian.
task?
Something isn't.
I don't know.
quite
It just
right.
feels like
there's something there
usually
You think?
that isn't touched on.
Do you think he might have
Makes
been
me
forced
wonder.
onto the space station by
I
somebody?
feel like he's not, but I won't know until I read more, or at least not fully. Maybe he
You're not
joined
telling me
this
like
government fair,
Mm.
joined this organization to do something. Well, and then he got thrown up into space with AI because
Okay,
like
I
a
don't-
higher
I've never
power or something. I'm
There's
not
been
sure.
one
movie that
but
I watched.
it just
with
feel like
AI.
he does not want
to be there.
Then a
That is
different
made
AI
evidently clear.
So like,
So, why would they put
is this AI going to
somebody
be the
who does not
exception,
want to be there
or is she evil?
on a mission? That's not helpful.
That is true.
Because it could
That's
for
something
sure-
I thought about.
it could
my
compromise
passive-
it.
I will keep doing my passive shrug. Yeah, no kidding.
At least you won't be getting
And-
spoilers.
What's funny enough is in this episode, no, it almost
I love how we at
does,
least got to hear the transmission at the end.
because Commander
really nice.
Minkowski
Because
tells
while
Eiffel,
it
all right,
gives this air
let's go
of
get
what's
Hilbert,
out
we're gonna
there,
get him out of there, we're gonna put out the fire, and he
brings in
says,
something that is
geez,
scientifically
Commander, I
accurate, is
would,
that
but I'm
there
banned
are
from the
radio
lab,
waves out there
and
that
we do
just
things here
keep
by the
going
book, and she's
until
like
they're caught.
threatening him at this point, and he's just
Yeah.
doing the whole like, oh, hello, are
It
you
does make
there?
me wonder,
I can't
though,
hear you, you're breaking up,
what
That was-
is
that
their
was funny.
surroundings
See,
like
once again, that
in
brings
that?
the-
Because
they
you do
feel
definitely
real.
hear them
They feel
like
like
talking and
they don't
whatnot.
feel like
You hear them, you
their
know,
pages
talking about their
in a book
environment,
or
what it's like, but then you
actors
ask
in a
those
movie.
questions
They feel
like,
they're
do they
people
have
and who've
artificial
just
gravity?
stepped into their lives.
For That is so true.
And I find it so interesting. But then, it just, the entire time I was listening to it the first time, I just kept thinking,
What
there's
does
something in the back
the walls
of
look
this entire
like?
story, and they're
How
trying
close
to
are they
get
to
you
the
to
actual sun?
pay
Like,
attention to it
that's
without
something
really
that
it being at
I've
the
asked
front
multiple
of
times
your
as I've
attention.
listened.
It's just
Even
in the
now,
back
I
of
still
your
ask
mind
that
and it's
question,
off.
even after listening to the entire thing.
And so,
How close
like,
are they to that
for
sun?
example, how many
Because,
people would they have had that can do his job?
I feel like
Why
as
put
close
somebody
as
that
they
doesn't
are,
want
the
the
way
job and
how much they're
could
hinting at how close they
very
are,
easily
I'd be afraid that they'd
sabotage
be
the
being
work
roasted right
because he
now. That
doesn't
the
care?
Hephaestus would be like
What
a
did they put
car
him
in
up there?
Arizona
No,
on the hottest day.
actually,
Complete oven.
Yeah, that
because
is
I
a
would
good
like to bring
question.
up the name of the ship.
Like,
is
if I were
Hephaestus,
directing this
which is
whole
God
thing with this
forged,
Hephaestus
which
space
is also
station, the last
associated
person I
with
think I'd
fire
put on
with
is
the
Eiffel,
forge. So I'm
just
wondering
because,
if
you
they
know,
named it Hephaestus
he doesn't
because it's
care too
really
much.
good around heat. But then, I guess it could be he doesn't
I never
care
thought about
anymore.
that.
I'm a nerd, especially when it comes to Greek mythology.
That is a
I
good
think
point,
thought
yeah.
about that at the
He might have cared in the first place when he got there, but as he
I
kept
thought
going
it was
on the
Hephaestus
station and doing stuff, he's like,
Firestar.
okay, this is not what I expected.
Thing 1.
But then
Thing
again,
2.
I don't think he doesn't
Merge them together.
necessarily
Ah.
care.
Yes.
I think
And see, that's
he
why I
doesn't
think it's
like
so
his
interesting to have
position. I think
different
he
views
loves
on
his
things.
work because when he gets the transmission,
things.
he's very interested in it and he wants to know what it is. But I think he would want to do that any other place ever. Any place other than that. But then I love your point of we don't really know how
Definitely.
close they are, or exactly what their surroundings look like. Once again, and I feel like why not the only place in media where you can properly get that. I don't know. It just feels like there's something there that isn't touched on properly, and it makes me wonder. But I won't know until I read more and will listen more. And you're not telling me anything, so it's not fair.
The NASA space station itself, there's been
Well, and
multiple
then
times that
I just
I've listened to an
the AI
episode
freaks me out.
and then
okay?
I've like
I don't-
stopped it.
I've
I've
never
like grabbed my computer, been
there's
like,
one
in
movie
space,
that I
do
watched
astronauts
where the
blah
AI
blah blah
was
blah blah blah,
within
and
a
then
different
it'll be
AI
like something with an
So,
astronaut
like,
being like, oh yeah, you can totally do that in space.
this
No
AI gonna be
biggie.
the
Or they'll be like,
exception?
no, you can't do
Or is
that.
she
It's
evil?
way too difficult. And I'm like, aha, they got that wrong.
That's not
They got
helpful.
that right. For those who cannot see what I just did, I shrugged and Kat gave me this very accusing look of, really? Seriously? Help me out here.
I'm grasping for straws.
I will keep doing my
I don't,
passive.
like, fully get that.
I will keep doing my
Because
passive
there are some
shrug.
things that you won't at least you won't be going in science-based fiction. But then, because I love how
No.
yes, it's fiction. I love how we at least got to hear the transmission at the end on real. That was really nice. The science because while it still really gives this air of what's out there, how accurate are they right now? It brings in something that is scientifically accurate. I think that's very important. There are radio waves out there that just like keep going until they're caught. It's very important to know what.
It does make me wonder, though, what
Yeah, exactly.
is
I
their
think it's one of the
surroundings
more-
like? It's one of the
in depth,
difficult
because
things
you
about
do definitely
sci-fi in
hear
general.
them, like, talking
You have
and
to do your
whatnot. You hear
research,
them,
or
you
else
know,
you'll look like
talking
a
about their
goofball.
environment,
what it's
And
like.
then-
But then you ask those questions like, do they have artificial gravity?
Exactly.
Um,
I'm working on a historical fiction, at least until it becomes sci-fi, is I have to stop mid-sentence and go and like research, when did this happen? Blah blah blah, where was this estate? Doodle doodle doodle. How long were workhouses around in London? Stuff like that, because I don't want to be historically inaccurate unless it has to do
what
with
does the walls look like?
That is very
How close
important.
are they
And I
to
am
the
gonna
actual
say,
sun?
like,
Exactly.
Reading
That's
small parts
something
of your
that
story,
I've asked multiple times.
I think I was
as I've
most
listened.
impressed
Even
by
now,
the
I
train
still ask
scene
that
because,
question.
as
even
I was
after listening to the
reading
entire thing, the description of the train.
how close
like,
are they to that
How
sun?
did you know it was
Because,
Well,
like, I feel like
as close
literally
as
stopped
they are, the way
and, like,
the,
was like,
how much they're hinting
how does she know
at
what
how
it
close
smells
they
like?
are.
tobacco.
I'd
was
be
very
afraid that they'd be
popular,
being roasted
especially
right
back
now.
then,
That
because
the
they thought it
Hephaestus
worked less
would
in
be
medicine.
like a car in Arizona
And so
on the hottest
a
day.
lot of, for
Complete
example,
oven.
because I would like to bring up the name of the ship is Hephaestus most, and higher class, which is also associated with fire. So I'm wondering if they named it common Hephaestus because it's really good around heat, tobacco, or smoke. Especially in a confined
I never thought
area.
about that.
I'm a nerd, especially and like an area of travel.
Interesting.
This isn't a household or a shop. I thought it was Hephaestus Firestar hours.
Thing 1,
Yeah,
thing 2,
probably being bored.
merge
out
them
of your
together.
mind, like I did.
Yes.
Well, and see, that's why I think it's so interesting to have different views on things, because different
I
people
know,
notice
you don't
different
have
things.
anything you can do. I mean, you can stare out the window, which is, more than Eiffel gets. Eiffel gets a full all-time round just staring at a big red ball in the middle of space. I think that'd get boring after a while.
We don't really know
Just-
how close they are, or like exactly what their surroundings look like.
I know,
I feel like
I've thought about that
the only
too.
Place in
I
media where you
think
can
what it
properly
is
get
that the
mental
glass
image
might be
is
specifically
movies.
designed for that. Might have like some sort of UV
And
protection,
actual, the
and
NASA space
it might
station
have,
itself.
like, it
There's
might be
been
shaded. The
multiple
glass itself might be
times
shaded.
that
Tinted. I've listened to an episode, and then I've like stopped it. I've like grabbed
As
my
he's,
computer,
like,
been
you
like,
know, doing
in
his
space,
work,
do
whatnot.
astronauts blah 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 blah, and then it'll be like something with an
Oh my goodness,
astronaut
that'd be
going like,
so
oh
funny.
yeah, you can totally do that in space. No, Biggie.
does
Or they'll be like,
bring
no, you can't
another
do
point
that.
up,
It's
is
way too
that
difficult. And like,
astronauts
aha,
have
they
this
got
very
that
special
wrong, or they got that right.
ability that
I
movies
know
look
things.
I know, because like
really
get that.
any other
Because
media
there are
has,
so many
and that
things
is
that you wonder, especially
you
in
usually have to
science-based
imagine the
fiction.
setting.
Because
the
to an
setting.
extent, yes, it's
More.
fiction. They can do whatever they want
Mhm.
because it's not real.
You have to be the one that
but
decides
the
that.
science part
And
really brings
I've
into
probably
how accurate are they right now? And how much
edited my
research
mental
are they
image
doing?
of what Wolf
I think that's
359
very
looks like
important
millions
in
of times
sci-fi
over.
Especially. Well, and see, I think that can be a strength and a weakness at the same time. It's very important because different to know what you're writing about. Different people need different.
Yeah,
things
exactly. I think it's one of the more. It's one of the
Visualize
difficult
something.
things about
For example,
sci-fi
I
in
find-
general.
I find
You have
stories
to do your
with
research, or else
detailed
you'll look
descriptions
like a
of
goofball.
exact characters. And then for me, at
But-
least, because of the area there, it's very nice to hear, especially for example when they're in like a very fancy area or like an elegant place. It's nice to have it vocalized, not just it was fancy, but like the walls were strewn in silver on historical fiction. The chandeliers sci-fi with golden beads. I have to stop mid-sentence and
Yeah,
go and
it is
research.
nice when that
When
happens.
did this happen? Blah blah blah. Where was this
I
estate?
think a lot of
Doodle,
books,
doodle, doodle. How
especially
long were
master
workhouses around
that
in
when
London?
it comes to those big reveals.
Stuff like that, because I don't want to be.
I don't think Harry
historically
Potter would be the
inaccurate
same
unless
if
it
we
has to do with the
glanced
plot
over
line.
the Great Hall. It would not be the same.
That's
That
an
is very
important part of
important.
it.
And I am going to say,
Or-
like,
but with Wolf
reading
359,
small parts of your
you
story,
don't have that. You
I
don't
think I was most
have
impressed by the train
a
scene,
proper
because
mental image
as
what
I was
everything looks
reading
like. And so you
the
have to
description of
do
the train, I was like,
a lot of
how did you
guessing
know what it would
on the
smell
spot.
like?
Well,
What does Eiffel's
Like, I
control panel look like? What does he
literally
look like?
stopped
Is
and
her
like was
a
like,
hologram? Is
how
she
does
on
she
a
know what it
screen,
smells
or
like?
is he just in
tobacco
the
was
How?
speakers?
very popular,
What is
especially
going
in that
on?
era, because they thought it worked as
Yeah,
medicine.
what's going on? And I think that's special because
so a
as
lot
you're
of-
going
Wow.
through the series
For example,
and continually
middle-class,
like
working
re-listening
class
to some of the
people
episodes,
smoked,
it'll change.
and
Like
higher class
right
people
now,
smoked
I
cigars.
just realized
So,
that the red
It
dwarf
was
star, because it's
very
red,
common for there
it
to be
probably
some sort
would
of
tint
scent
the color that the
tobacco
human
or
eyes would
smoke,
see. So you would see
especially
more
in a
red
confined area.
in a room.
And like an area of travel.
Interesting.
This isn't a household or a shop. It's a train that you're going to be sitting on for hours.
Yeah, probably being bored out of your mind like Eiffel.
Except you don't have any transmissions to listen for.
I know, you don't have anything you can do. I mean, you can stare out the window, which is, more than Eiffel gets. Eiffel gets a full all-time round just staring at a big red ball in the middle of space. I think that'd get boring after a
I
while.
wonder if
Just
they need like sun protection from it.
I know, I've thought about that too. I think what it is that the glass might be specifically designed for that. It might have like some sort of UV protection, and it might have like, it might be shaded the glass itself might be
I
shaded.
just want to imagine Eiffel
Tinted.
wearing helicopter glasses all the time.
As he's like, doing his work and
He
whatnot.
looks like an 80s detective.
Oh my goodness, that'd be so
That'd
awesome.
be epic.
And that does bring another point up, is that podcasts have this very special ability that movies, books, or really any other media has, and that is you usually have to imagine the setting.
To decide what they look like,
More.
what their surroundings look like.
You have to be the one that decides that. And I've probably edited my mental image of what Wolf 359 looks like millions of times over.
Well, and see, I think that can be a strength and a weakness at the same time, because different people need different things in order to properly visualize something. For example, I find stories with detailed descriptions of like how the characters look and how the area there will look. It's very nice to hear, especially for example when they're in like a very fancy area or like elegant place. It's nice to have it vocalized, not just it was fancy, but like the walls were strewn in silver satin and the chandeliers dangled with golden beads.
Yeah, it is nice when that happens. I think a lot of books especially master that when it comes to those big reveals. Like, I don't think Harry Potter would be the same if we glanced over the Great Hall. It would not be the same. That's an important part of it. But with Wolf 359, you don't have that. You don't have a proper mental image of what everything looks like. And so you have to do a lot of guessing on the spot. What does Eiffel's control panel look like? What does he look like? Is here a hologram? Is she on a screen? Or is she just in the speakers? What is going on? Yeah, what's going on? And I think that's special because as you're going through the series and continually like re-listening to some of the episodes, it'll change. Like right now, I just realized that the red dwarf star, because it's red, it probably would tint the color that the human eyes would see. So you would see more red in a room. What are his intentions? You hear Eiffel go by the way, I got this audio recording of Dr. Hilbert's laboratory and whatnot, and he was making some weird sounds, even weird for him. Plays it, and you hear this weird whirling mechanic sound, and then just a monstrous growl, and you're like, what is he doing?
Which honestly, what is Hilbert doing? It brings up so many questions.
Yeah, for real.
Was there an explosion? It brings up the question of what is he doing on the ship? And what are his intentions?
That's a good point for sure. Because, yeah, we don't really know exactly what Hilbert's doing or really his intentions yet. We've only just gotten an introduction to him. And so, yeah, we'll have to see. Will Hilbert be on the good side, or will he be on the dark side?
That brings
we'll see.
in the more alien part of sci-fi, I think, is what's he doing in there? Is that the thing? Who is he talking to? Are we going to die? And so, seriously, I would like to know, not from you, because you're not going to tell me anything, but as we go on, I feel like Hilbert, well, I love him, he's an amazing character, hysterical, but I feel like sometimes you can hide evil behind a very lovable character. Don't say that. I'll go. Don't say that. I will go on full rants about things fully unrelated. Which actually, this brings me to a question I'd like to ask, because I know people, at least me, who are very invested in stories. Would you be interested in seeing this podcast in a different medium?
What do you mean? Oh, I get what you mean.
Like,
yes,
as a show?
I would definitely want to see it as a show. My goodness, and I've thought so much about this. I've thought about how the lighting would play into it, and how, like, what the ship would look like. Like, honestly, my goodness, I want to see that so bad. But deep down in my heart, I'm like, it's not gonna happen.
It's
Yeah.
TV.
Or is it gonna be like the Percy Jackson movie flop, where you have a cocky director who thinks he can do everything and completely cuts the actual author out of it?
Yeah. Yeah. Though actually, I think Wolf 359 would have an advantage in that area, because you don't already really have this finite pre-existing idea of what it all looks
Definitely.
like.
But then again, you could also say that would cause some anger with
Like,
some people. They're like, no, it's supposed to look like that, or the character's supposed to look like this, and you're like, give me a break. I can't decide all these things.
but they're not described in the podcast, which I feel like would give them a boost, because nobody really knows what they look like, really. And so you could interpret that any way you like it to. I think where it would struggle would be where so many things struggle. Because I think casting in shows is really good. But I think where so many people struggle is properly conveying.
But that's the thing, though. With Wolf 359, if you really wanted to just keep the fans happy and keep it easy, you use the audio that you already have and you just animate over that. Simple.
That would work so well, do an animated show instead of live
I mean,
action.
here's the thing. Why would you even try and throw away the old audio? You have this absolutely mastered audio in front of you. The guys of Wolf 359 spent ages working on it. Why would you throw that away?
Yeah. Though I think, especially with this podcast, if you were to make it into a cartoon, I think an interesting way to do it would be as if you're watching footage from...
That would be really fun. I thought about that too.
Like, because you're not a character there, and the audio is not made as if you're a character there. He's talking to you, but you're not really there. He's talking to you on a tape that he's gonna, like, send to somebody. So I feel like if they were to make a show, you could do it where you're watching it all. You're watching it in third person, and you can see everybody. But it's more through this lens of...
That could work out. Especially if they move around. Especially if they move around the station a bunch. Having that would be really good. Because one moment you're just looking at one thing, the next different camera angle, different camera angle, different camera angle, boom.
Well, I think how they could work with that would be, what if there were just cameras around the station, and you just switch to different cameras around the station? That would be a good way to keep it where you're following the audio, yes, but also you're not just in this stale spot in the corner watching it.
Yeah, you're not just watching Eiffel complain about his life.
Just quite...
Yeah, it is entertaining all on its own, but I think that as the series progresses, we probably want to see more areas other than the, comms room.
Yeah. Which I don't know about how this show is going to progress, because...
No.
You won't tell me, but I can't wait to see how they're going to deal with the way they've set it up, of you're not really there, and you're not really seeing it unroll in real time. It's more like you're watching something that's already happened. So I would like to see how they do that, especially since they're not using descriptive words like describing what they're doing.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun, especially because I know all the plot. I have to sit here and go,
Whatever.
yes, nothing.
I'm gonna have you read Lunar Chronicles for this show at some point, and then I can just sit here and be like, oh, really?
That was going to be fun. Though I am excited. Ooh,
Well,
another
it's
sci-fi
themed book.
Dang it. Here's the thing, I don't read a lot of sci-fi, mainly because it's not that I don't like reading. I love reading. My parents know this about me because they'll try and buy me a book every year. I think they're scared of buying me books though, because I just fly through them. I am terrified of reading new books because I don't know whether that book series is going to be garbage or not. And here's the thing, they'll be really good at putting in like a plot, making you question it, but it's like a soap opera. It's like that. It's so painful.
That's where this series is actually really nice, because it has a very nice plot and it makes you like wonder what's going to happen next. But it's not in the sense of plot just for the sake of plot, which I think a lot of stories struggle with. They're just, heck, I struggle with it. You're adding things that you don't really need to add just to take up space, and it can make it really difficult to get through it when other things that are just, this didn't need to happen, it's unnecessary, keep happening, and it's like interrupting the actual storyline.
For real, yeah. I'm actually super scared right now.
1 minute.
Plot for the sake of plot, got it. Okay.
But like, the Lunar Chronicles especially, I don't feel like they do that. I feel like the plot is very much, you have what you need in order to continue the story. It's very well thought out.
Yeah, I'm excited for it too, because I want good books. I am too scared to do the digging, so I'll just rely on other people like, hey, is this a good plot? Is this a good book? Am I going to be disappointed or not? I think where it's going to be really frustrating is once we get, as I've said before, doing books neither of us have read.
Yeah, well, and see, that's where I think daring each other to read the books will be a good way to broaden each other's horizons.
Yeah.
Because I struggle with that too. I'll stick, like for example, if I find a book that I like, I will just read everything by that one author.
Hello dear podcasters. This scene is where we ended up ranting about Percy Jackson for approximately 45 minutes. I would like to take this interruption to tell all of you that in order to continue enjoying your stories, movies, and podcasts, you must in fact drink water and occasionally eat. So I highly recommend you do that. Now that I'm done speaking, and that we are done ranting about Percy Jackson, please return to the podcast.
That is all we have to say this episode. Thank you so much for joining us, and I hope you find it interesting. We will be publishing this episode once we get all the audio together, and I had a really good time. What about you?
Have covered this first episode of the podcast, and we've really explored its plot, the characters, and overall how it makes it feel when you actually listen to the thing. And through the entire thing, I got to just like go most of the time. Yeah, I got to smugly just go a lot throughout this whole thing.
Thank you for joining us today. I hope you can join us again next time when we delve deeper into the secret library.